Welcome to this week's tarot spread, which is the Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. This is going to be a variation of the one that I did on July 6th from the book 365 Tarot Spreads. The variation that we're going to be doing today, the purpose of this one is to use the kissing cliches that were in the original spread to explore and gain clarity around healing our stories around intimacy. I'm sure that most of us have issues with intimacy on one level or another, and that maybe by doing this reading, there's some guidance and some information that can help to understand where the next step is to kind of work to clear trapped emotion, clear stagnant energy, heal things that we're still carrying forward from the past, just so that we can start to open up space, right? Take the walls down and open up space so that we can join better with ourselves and with other people in order to create more intimate relationships. Because when we have truly intimate relationships, there's a less need to have masks and to hide things and to keep secrets. Or even like when you have an intimate relationship with somebody, there's a lot more trust there, because being intimate with others just creates trust, because if we didn't trust them, we wouldn't want to be that close to them. So the guiding question that I will be shuffling into the cards today is, what do you need to be aware of to help you build an intimate and healthy relationship with yourself? And as I'm shuffling this question into the cards, we're thinking about the different ways that we want to become more intimate with ourselves, because by being more intimate with ourselves, it allows us to see where we're being less authentic and less intimate with other people. So we want to see what we need to be aware of, what's in the way of helping us build healthy, intimate relationships, starting with ourselves. So I'm going to shuffle that into the cards. They're being a little temperamental today. Heels. What do we need to be aware of? Okay, we'll split the cards. Now for this variation, I did decide to keep all of the 9 cliches from the original spread. And as I was going through, I was thinking of, if I wanted to kind of tap into what's going on with my intimacy issues, what are some ways that I can kind of tap into that? So the first card that we have is the Judas Kiss. And for this one, the question that I came up is, what are the personal betrayals that are keeping me from a healthy relationship with myself? And when I was looking at betrayals for this question, I was looking at, like, where am I breaking my boundaries? Where am I out of integrity with my values or my ethics? And where is it that I am actually going against myself and going against what's best for me, self-sacrificing, however it is that we want to put it, for other people? Because there's a lot of places that we will either put on masks and we'll hide our true self. And so this question really is, what is it about ourselves that we are betraying in order to fit in out there? How is it that we're hiding parts of ourselves in order to just stay on those surface levels with others? Because if you're hiding any part of yourself, if you're betraying any part of yourself, then automatically your relationships are going to be less than intimate, because it's hard to be intimate with a mask. So here we have the Ace of Pentacles. And the Ace of Pentacles is telling us that when we're looking at where we're betraying ourselves a lot in the beginning of relationships. And because it's Pentacles, we're looking at physical, tangible things. And so we're looking at the issues that we have in regards to physical contact with other people. And so if I was looking at this from my perspective, I would say, yeah, I have a lot of issues with being in physical proximity to other people. And so there's people out there that'll be, when they meet each other, when they greet each other, they want to hug, they want to kiss. And when you've had a lot of physical trauma, that could actually make it so it's a little bit more difficult to be touched by others. And there's a lot of physical trauma that you could be experiencing. I myself have had a few different motor vehicle accidents. And so the physical trauma from the motor vehicle accident has left me partially with chronic pain and partially with some vision issues that make a lot of things more challenging in the physical realm. And so because of this, when people want to come and give me a hug, it's can be a bit challenging. Even if it's somebody that I know, even if it's somebody that I trust, it can be challenging. And so instead of starting a new conversation with somebody and saying, look, this is something that I don't feel comfortable with, I will swallow that and allow them into that physical space. And then I get upset about it with myself mostly, and it makes me feel more uncomfortable and more out of alignment with them. And so if you're not comfortable with someone to have conversations and to be in the physical proximity of them without being able to have those conversations, then automatically it's going to impact intimacy. And for me, this is coming up and it's saying, like that is a personal betrayal to me, because it's saying you're not valuable enough to have these conversations. And so when you start a relationship with somebody, regardless of whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's just a friendship, whether it's a business partnership, whatever it is, to be able to be true to yourself and be able to say, hey, look, this is a boundary that I have, right? Like, I'll shake your hand, or if there's something that you need, please ask me first, kind of thing. And so learning how to be in that space as where you're starting the process, right? Because again, we're looking at the Ace of Pentacles, which is the beginning of a process. And this could also be the beginning of a healing process. And so if there's issues that you have that are keeping you from being intimate with others, that are a physical illness, a physical disability, a physical, like a memory of a physical event, then the first step of what's keeping is actually facing it and dealing with it. And most of the time we kind of go, it never happened, it's not as bad, but there might be some actual physical steps that need to be taken, and out of fear, out of obligation, out of whatever the term is that you want to add on to it, we're avoiding doing what needs to be done in order to allow for that intimacy of knowing ourselves. The second one we have is Kiss the Cook. And so for this one, it's what nurturing and supportive practice would demonstrate self-love. And here we have, interestingly enough, we've got two aces back to back. So the Ace of Swords. And this one I find to be really good, especially for me, because this is the habit I have that I really need to learn how to work on and to break. And it's all about how to communicate with ourselves. Because again, remember, this is all about building a self-loving, supportive, healing, intimate relationship with ourselves. And so we have to go back to one of the other things that this can lead to is we're not making time for ourselves, right? So that there's this whole idea of date yourself. And this also could be that thing, like, are you making time for yourself? Are you making time to be with yourself? Or are you, getting up in the morning and saying, oh, I would really love to do this one. I would love to go gardening. I would get up in the morning and I would love to go gardening. And the day would come and the end. And have you done the gardening? Have you done the groceries? Have you done the exercise? Have you done whatever it is that you said that you want to do? I don't tend to be one that loves to get up and go do my groceries. But the point is if you go to say, I want to do this physical thing, which is your ace. That's the thought, that's the activity, that's the idea behind it. And you go, okay, I want to do this thing. And someone else comes along and says, oh, I'm going to do this. And you're like, well, I don't really want to do that. But they're looking at me like maybe they want me to do it with them. So I'm going to do it. And then this, it goes in the garbage. And so that's the betrayal against yourself, because instead of saying, I would love to do that with you, maybe we can do it later, this is what I want to do now, or we feel we have to justify our actions. And so what this is saying is, no, we need to start now moving down this. You get the idea, and now you need to act on it. And the same thing with nurturing and supportive practices for self-love. The Ace of Swords is, to me, when you're looking at self-love, is an indication of a lot of cutting, a lot of hurting, a lot of painful self-talk. And so one of the first things that we can do is we can really start to pay attention to, what are we saying to ourselves about ourselves? What is the conversation that we're having within ourselves? Are we being loving to ourselves? Are we being compassionate up to ourselves? Are we trying to gain a deeper loving understanding of who we are? Or are we playing old stories? Are we playing old scripts? Are we beating ourselves up? Are we cutting ourselves down? And so the Ace of Swords comes with a lot of immediate insight, immediate inspiration. So because we're looking to build a self-love practice, it's about having those moments of, oh my goodness, did I just say that about myself to myself? And understanding that the thoughts that we have a direct impact on the life that we live. Because if we see ourselves as being horrible, stupid, useless, then we're going to look in our lives for all the places that that is true, so that we can then justify and validate to continue to think those things. And it's important for us to build a better, healthier, loving relationship. And the best way we can do self-care, regardless of anything else that we do, the best self-care practice is to speak kindly and lovingly to ourselves, and to really start picking up when that other voice in our head is really putting us down and really beating us up. And one of the things for me that got me being able to catch that voice a lot faster is, when you start to hear the way the voice is speaking in your head, you ask, would I say this to someone else? Is this something that I would say to someone else? So one of my common bad brain stories is that, like, that I'm stupid, or that I don't have anything of value to anybody else. And then I think, like, would I say that to someone that I cared about? Would I tell my children those kinds of things? And no, they've done, studies. There's studies on everything nowadays, but the most abusive relationship we can ever be in is the one with ourselves. Because one, everything happens in our head, so nobody else can hear it, nobody else can see it, nobody else can understand the horrendous things that we all at some point or another have said to ourselves. And so the Ace of Swords is coming and saying, you have to stop that. Right? That if you want to have a real good practice of self-care, you have to, we have to put ourselves first and do things that really support us in the physical realm. And then we have to really be aware of what we're saying to ourselves, and really start with, uplifting, cleaner, very clear stories that we're going to say to ourselves. The third one is blowing a kiss. And for this one, the question is, what disconnected parts are ready for integration? And when I talked about this in the review a couple weeks ago, I was talking about, like, blowing a kiss is about things that are far away. And that's where I thought there's a lot of different parts that get disconnected and that basically fly off when we have trauma, when we have tragedy, when we have grief, when we have different things that we're either told are unacceptable. We try to cut them off and send them away. But to be truly whole, we have to accept all those. We have to see that they're there. And so this is whole thing of, blowing a kiss is kind of like that invitation to come back. It's time to come back. It's time to be whole. And for this one, we have the Five of Pentacles. One of the things about the Five of Pentacles that I find interesting is there's two aspects of it. The first is that the Five of Pentacles is being in a place where you're feeling that you need to ask, right? Like, so you, I, most of the pictures have like someone poor at the door of the church, kind of like supplication of please help me, please help me. And so part of what this could be is you might need someone else to help guide and bring you back. And these can be things like guided meditations. They can be, sitting out in nature and, working in companionship with the universe and saying, hey, look it, I'm ready to start to integrate some of these parts that I have. What can you offer me that will help? And if you kind of go looking around, you can Google like soul retrieval or parts integration. And there's a lot of different things like that that you can do. You can do different rituals to help reintegrate and call back these different parts of yourself. The second thing about the Five of Pentacles that kind of recently came to me was that even though there's a part of it that's asking, there's that also part of recognizing that there are still things that I have. So I may not have enough in order to do X, Y, Z. So I need to ask for help. So for instance, if you want to start a business, you may not have enough capital to start the business yourself. You may have to get a loan. You may have to look at small business support. You may have to look at a coach, a mentor, something external to yourself that's going to help you. But at the same time, if you are lacking the skills and the ability, then no matter how much resources you get from external, it will never happen. And being that we're the Five of Pentacles, we've already surpassed the three, which is the three is the card of starting, of learning a skill, of learning a practice. And so because we're already at the five, we're halfway on a journey towards something. So because we're looking at building a more intimate relationship with ourselves, we're kind of halfway there in the physical sense of it, because again, we're dealing with Pentacles, which is our material world. One of the other things I feel that this is saying is that, we also need to be grounded. And so if we're looking to be calling back these other parts, which kind of came to me, is that can also be what the supplication is for, is calling back to our parts to say, please come back to me. I'm not whole without you. Please come back to me. And then looking for the signs within your physical environment of what parts are ready to come back. What stories are you ready to heal? But to do this, it's really important to be grounded in the now, because when we're dealing with parts and we're dealing with healing and we're dealing with integration, we're dealing with emotions and energetics. Like it's not like we're going to get a puzzle piece that's going to be delivered in the mail and say, oh, this is my missing part. And then we're just going to stick it on our chest or stick it whatever. These are all parts of energy, emotions, and energetics. So we need to be very well grounded in where we are now, so that when we start to go through this process, the emotions and the energetics, as they, harmonize back in with us and we feel more and more complete, we're not going to be knocked off of balance. The next card we have is Kiss and Tell. And how can I best realign with my integrity? So this kind of marries to me back with the Judas Kiss, right? So if we're betraying ourselves, now how can we best realign with that? Like where are we out of integrity? Because if we're out of integrity, that's why we're so easily able to betray ourselves. And now we're looking at, how do I realign? How do I identify where and how I go out of integrity? And here we have, interestingly enough, we have the third of the aces. So we have the Ace of Wands. And what we're being told is we're energetically out of integrity. And the energetics fall and influence all the aspects of what's going on. If we're energetically out of alignment, if we're energetically out of integrity, then it's going to impact how we're acting in the physical world. It's going to impact how we're thinking about ourselves. It's going to it's going to affect, the creative flow that we have, how much emotions get stuck, how much emotions we actually feel. And then all of that's going to impact relationships. And because we're looking at our first and foremost, the relationship with ourselves, we're definitely going to be getting into some things of, because our energetics are all over the place, because, we might be motivated to do things for different reasons. that ends up trickling through everything else in our lives. And so when we're looking to realign, we need to start with the energetics. We need to find out what's blocked. We need to find out, and it could be things from like, how passionate are we about the things that we're doing? Are we doing the things that we are passionate about? Or are we just following through with the recommendations and the suggestions of other people? Are we with the people that fill us with passion, that motivate us to do things? Are we just with the people because those are the people that have been around us all the time? Are we doing the projects? Are we building the structures? Are we learning the skills that really we want to do? And so this is telling us it's time to look at where our motivation is driving us, where our passions are driving us. And the more that we can find out where we're pushing, where we're having to like take from other places. So if you get up, for instance, and there's something that you really want to do, we'll go back to our aces, right? Like, so if there's something that you want to do and you go, someone else is asking me to do something, and just feel the energy that you have when you think about, oh, I want to go gardening. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Woohoo. Or, oh, they want me to go grocery shopping. Well, I guess I'll go, right? Automatically, that's showing where you're going to be out of integrity, because now you're pushing, you're having to drag energy, you're having to like pull on your reserves. And when the other way to tell is when you get done with something that you're doing, when you leave a relationship, so you go out for coffee with a friend and you come back, how do you feel? Do you feel really great? Do you get off a call with somebody and feel really great? Or do you feel like all I want to do is lay down and go to sleep? These are all the things that are going to show where you're out of alignment. And to really begin to have those conversations with yourself and say, hey, whenever we have coffee with so and so on a day that we want to do such and such, it's really hard. And so we need to start having the conversations to say, maybe we can shift the day that we're going to meet, or maybe we can shift the time that we're going to meet. And so it's all about that. The next card that we have is the Kiss of Death. And this one says, what needs transforming in our relationship with ourselves? And this is, I have to say, this is very few and far between that this ever happens. We have the other ace. So now we've had all four aces come up. The only thing that's missing as far as completing the set is if we get the Fool. Now, the Ace of Cups, when we're looking at it, we're looking at how we need to really transform the relationship that we're having with ourselves. We need to start from the very core of how we feel about ourselves. How are we loving ourselves? How are we holding space for ourselves? How are we putting ourselves first? Cups is, it's emotions, but it's community and it's creativity. So how are we being creative in the way that we're supporting ourselves? How are we being creative in the way that we are building this relationship with ourselves? And so it's really, really interesting that all of this, when we're looking at all the cards that have come up, other than the Five of Coins here, we've had all cups. Sorry, not all cups. We've had all the aces. And I really kind of like how this is saying that the best way to build intimacy with ourselves is to start again. And a lot of times I have a practice for myself that I get up in the morning, especially if I had a really, really bad day. And it's a good way to start again, right? Like you get up and every moment you have the opportunity to choose to start again. And what the aces are doing is they're saying, like, wash the slate clean, let go of everything that's happened in the past. And the only thing that needs to be done connected to that is to call back those pieces that we need to bring back so that we can stand whole and in our integrity. Other than that, we need to build a new relationship with ourselves. We need to find a way to be more passionate with ourselves. We need to have new ways of having conversations with ourselves. And we need to have new ways of taking care of ourselves physically. Interesting. The next card is Kiss My Derriere. And this one is, how can we best stand in our authenticity? And now we have the Six of Wands. And the Six of Wands says the best way in answering to the question, I would say the best way to stand in our authenticity is to identify all the places where we have been successful as being ourselves. And a lot of times, we might have success in different things and not really feel it because we're being successful by helping other people to find their success. And we may have been taught that, tooting your own horn, so to speak, makes you a poor winner or makes you look as if you're very selfish and self-motivated and egotistical and all these kinds of things. When we're looking at building intimacy with ourselves, we have to be. There's no one else out there that is going to cheer us on, build us up, love us, and support us as much as we can. And so we need to really start to have a practice. And because we have all these aces, this might be something that a practice that we all need to start building, is a practice of daily celebration of our successes, because the Six of Wands is about victory. It's about coming out of a battle and finding out that, whatever you were fighting for, you have been successful in that all of the sacrifices, all of the pain, all of the hardship, all of it is worth it because you've come out on the other side. You've come out stronger. You've come out better. You've come out more clear. All of those things that the aces that we have here, they're all saying, if you start all these new things, you're going to reach that Six of Wands. You're going to find victory. You're going to find the ability to integrate all your lost parts. You're going to find the ability to become more passionate about yourself so that you can be intimate and you want to be out with other people. You want to have communities where you're connecting on an authentic, aligned level. And so looking at all of the ways that we have pushed through, overcome, cleared obstacles, everything like that, that's what we want to look at. But we want to look at it again from the lens of for ourselves. So where have you faced a foe, right? And come out on the other side to say, hey, look I had this big end boss, right? And I went to fight this end boss and I didn't think I had enough skill. I didn't think I have enough ability. I was tripping over my words, but I managed to do the right thing, say the right thing in order for me to overcome that boss. And now here I am better for it. And a lot of times we downplay ourselves. We downplay the things that we have worked really hard to do. And I'll use an example, right? Like, so if you have someone that really, really struggles with getting up in the morning, right? And all of a sudden they have one day where they get up and they have energy and they're ready to do things. That is a huge thing that would fall under the Six of Wands. That's something. But to them, they might downplay it, especially if they get up and they don't get the recognition from the people around them. That's one of the things that the Six of Wands is really kind of coming in and saying, it's time to stop looking for the external person to see what we have done and be able to say to ourselves, wow, I did that. And I don't care if anybody saw it. I don't care if anybody noticed. I don't care if anybody acknowledged it. I am acknowledging it because I love myself and I want to show myself that I'm worth it. Just looking to see, we've got an interesting, so far we've got two pentacles and two wands. And the other thing that's interesting when I'm looking at it is with the pentacles, right? You go from the ace to the 5. So we are moving forward. And then when we get the wands, we're going from the ace to the 6. So again, with all of these things, if we look at these in a progression, and it's interesting that we have ace, ace, 5, ace, ace, 6. So that's saying if you're looking at it in a progression, right? Like if we can do these two things, then we're going to see some progress where we're ready to integrate those parts. And once we've integrated those parts, then we can work on these two pieces. And if we work on those two pieces after we've integrated our parts, that's when we're going to really be able to start to see the victory and the progress and all of the gains that we have made. So now we're going to the 7th card, which is Kiss Your Ass Goodbye. And this question is, what are the boundaries that need to be made around our relationship with ourselves? This is someplace for me, I put this question in here a lot because I really do struggle with boundaries. I have been a people pleaser, a perfectionist, and someone who runs after everybody in order to be seen. And so I might make boundaries, but then I will probably be the first one to break them. And so looking at what boundaries need to be put in place for myself before I can even start to think about putting boundaries external. Um, we've got we've got the Four of Cups. And so interesting that I was just talking about like boop, 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 back, boop, boop, or sorry, boop, back, back, forward, back, back, forward. We're going back, but we're not going back as far as the ace. We were actually at the four. So from the Six of Wands, we've only gone back 2 steps. We're now dealing with the boundaries that need to be made are around relationships and around emotions. And I think one of the nice things about this one is you're looking at, with the Four of Cups, you're looking at, here's where I am. So here's where she is, and she's all surrounded by that, but she's looking over here, and that nice daydreamy kind of face on her, looking at that and longing for whatever's over there. And the boundary for me would be like, how much time do you spend looking to the future, looking to something that you don't have, longing for something, instead of being here in the present and creating from this present what it is that you want? And so I think that that's really a big piece of what this is the boundaries need to be around the amount of time that's spent longing for something else. And I I do it sometimes with, if I get up and I'm having a really bad day, I will say, okay, today I'm going to give myself the day to have a pity party for myself, and I'm going to be all melancholy and snack out all I want and lay on the couch and do all these kinds of things. But tomorrow we're going to kind of get back to it. And I think that's what this is saying too, is like, like spend a day daydreaming, because a lot of times when we daydream, we can actually trigger the creative flow and be able to kind of inspire us in order to do something with what we already have. The trap is when we get stuck in that position and sit there and say, and it could be a couple of things. This could be that you're looking out at other people and longing for what they have, or it could be that you're thinking about where you are now and longing for where you thought you would be. And so it's all about being able to sit there and honor those emotions, because if we don't, then we're just trapping them within ourselves, and then it's creating a whole other issue. So we want to be able to identify the places in our lives where that longing is keeping us out of our creative flow, because there's nothing wrong with longing or wanting something else unless it is actually making us unable to create and build those things within our lives. And the other thing about longing is we have to, again, go back and say, who is longing for this? Is this that I was raised to believe that you have to have, the big house with the children and the car and the job and all this kind of stuff? If that's what you were raised and conditioned to want, that's one thing. But is it what you really want? Right? Like, so when we're looking back over here, we're looking at the victories and everything that we've had. We're doing the victories based on the things that we have fought to gain. And now we were back here, right? Like, so now that we've fought and we've gained these things, now it's time to actually sit down and say, okay, now we need to start putting boundaries on what it is that we are wanting and aspiring to have that's going to make us feel fulfilled. And, a lot of times that, there's that saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, especially if you don't want grass. And so it's looking at, what is it that is calling to your heart, and to really spend time, like give yourself a day every now and then and say, like, so maybe today, like on this day once a week, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to think about, like, where am I, right? Where am I? What do I have? What are the relationships I want? How am I connecting to myself? Because again, we're going to take it back to the intimacy and the relationship with ourselves. How am I being myself? Where am I seeing all of the things that I have? And what am I longing to create? And what am I longing to be? And what am I longing to experience? And really sit with those, so that by the end of the day, you want to say to yourself, by the end of the day, I want to be able to say, here's one thing I long for, that I really long for, and I can maybe get it if I do X. Right? You want to be able to, at the end of all of these, like even when I have my pity days, right? I still come out at the end and go, okay, well, while I was doing that, there was one thing that I really wanted to do, and it was for me, right? So it's all about being able to have that time to untangle all the things that are keeping us from really connecting with who we are deep down, so that when we know ourselves, when we can stand in that center of our core and say, truly, honestly, this is who I am, this is what I want, then nothing that comes up is going to be able to sway us. The next one we have is the French kiss. So how can I rekindle the passion for myself? And this one's interesting. You got the Queen of Swords. So air and fire, when they go together, if they're well maintained, will make a nice, beautiful, passionate fire. But if you have too much air feeding this fire, it can actually explode into some kind of horrible fire. And so one of the first things that we want to be paying attention to is, like, again, going back to, and this is interesting. So this is the second sword that we've had. So now we have two of each. We've got two pentacles, two cups, two wands, two swords. And this one goes from the ace all the way up to the queen. And so this is the biggest jump, which means there's something to really be paying attention to as well, because when we're looking at the Queen of Swords, she is very much, to me, I think sometimes she's very much misunderstood, because the Queen of Swords is a very cutthroat and can appear to be very cold and calculated woman. But the thing is she does it from the heart. And I say that because what she says is what needs to be cut right through to get to the heart of the matter. And she wants to see things work out in the best way for everybody that's involved. And the only way to do it is to really sometimes be quite blunt and to say things that other people may be afraid to say. And because she is the queen, she rules over all of the intimacy relationships. And so being able to have the confidence to stand in your power and say to yourself, I am powerful, I am strong, I am connected to myself, right? Like, she's coming now to sit there and say, like, the best way to rekindle yourself is to really create a very personal, private, powerful statement about yourself. And the queen will help you through that as you go through all of the challenges of the aces into where those suits lead to, right? So that all of the aces, we know we've got challenges from them. So as you move through and you go to the Five of Pentacles and you're being challenged to reconnect and pull back your missing pieces, as you move to the Six of Wands and you're being told, celebrate your unique, authentic self and all the challenges and all the battles you've overcome to become who you are. And once you have identified where it is that you're longing for things that are yourself and letting go of all the things that you thought you wanted but weren't really part of yours, now you have all of the information, all the details that you need in order to create a powerful story for yourself to embody. I think that's really awesome. And then the final card that we have is the Chocolate Kiss. And this one is, how can I bring more curiosity, play, joy, and fun into my relationships with myself? And I think it's, I would have thought it was quite fitting if we ended up with the Fool, but instead we end up with the Emperor. However, having said that, the fact that we have the Queen and the Emperor as our last two cards also is a very interesting thing, because the Queen will be very logical and very methodical in the way that she speaks about herself and the way she kind of fights for herself. Whereas the Emperor, he comes in and he's like saying, look it, you are in charge of your life, right? So she tells you who you are and the story you're going to tell, and he tells you what you own and what is yours to dominate over. I don't know that dominate's really the word I want to use, but like it's where you have dominion. It's where you really own what is yours. And this can be like your private spaces, it can be your home, it can be your things, right? Like your car or your bike or your scooter or your shoes, right? It could be whatever you have. But it's also when you go out, right? So as we're building these relationships, and once we have this kick-ass story that we're saying about ourselves, the Emperor comes in and says, now you need to embody that story and take it out into the world. You need to live this story out in the world. So now everything up until this point may have been things that we were working on quietly. They may be things that we were working on in our lives, privately, internally. And now, as we get to this point of curiosity and play, it's like, okay, now take this and go and play with it out in the real world. Go and see if I take all of these things that I have done right now, I'm fully healed and integrated. I've asked the parts that are ready to come back to me to come back to me. I've healed them. I've integrated them. I've celebrated all my successes. I've accomplished everything. I've overcome all these big battles. And I've now identified what it is that I'm longing to create. And I've got some steps on what I can do in order to create it. Now it's like, okay, now go out in the real world and see how people react to you and see if you've really done all the work, then you'll be able to tell that story to other people, and whatever they say won't make a difference as far as how you see yourself, right? Like, so if you go out into the world and you say your truth and you stand in your story, then whatever they say back to you, the queen's going to go, who cares, right? We already know from what we've healed, we already know from what we've overcome, and we already know from what we've defined as ours to create. It doesn't matter. And so the more that you can go out and be there, as you can see, right, he's unmasking. And that's what we're going to do as we go out in the world. So once we have created that unbreakable, intimate relationship with ourselves, that unbreakable, self-loving, valuing relationship with ourselves, we can go out in the world and we don't need to be all protected. We don't need to have all of these shields and all of these walls and all of these boundaries and barriers between us and others, because we will know when someone comes into our space, when we go someplace, when we're interacting in any way, shape, or form with something that is ours, that resonates with us. We will know that, and we won't have to go out of integrity. We won't have to go out of alignment. We won't have to betray ourselves, because we will know that in the end, we're the only one that goes on this journey with us. And so everything else external to us, will come and go, will be built and demolished. And the important thing is to make sure that in the building and the demolishing, that we are never demolished, unless the thing being demolished is the conditioning that we're carrying, the old hurtful, painful stories that we're carrying, anything that might want to try to, separate us from our truth and ourselves. So I'm just going to kind of do a quick little look at everything here. And I think a lot of it I covered as we were going, but again, I just think it's absolutely crazy how we had all 4 aces in here, and that each ace had a corresponding card to go with it to show the amount of growth that's possible in them. And that in the end, if we follow everything, we can end up being the ruler of our lives, right? And the nice thing about looking at it from that perspective of being the ruler of our lives is that there's a lot of rulers out there that are very kind, very compassionate, very loving, very, very well thought of. And then you also, of course, have the other side where there's rulers out there that, have actually been killed for being the cruel and horrible people that they are. And you get to decide that too. Like, what type of person are you going to be when you rule your life, when you rule yourself? Are you going to be kind, compassionate, loving, supportive, honoring? Are you going to be that person that breaks yourself down, cuts yourself down, contorts yourself, twists yourself in order to fit into someone else's mold, someone else's story, someone else's life? And so that's where the opening is here, is to start to explore how can you be the best sovereign emperor for your life that you can. And the best way to do that is to do the work of the aces, as I've already said, and to find and consolidate all of the parts of yourself that are ready to be healed and to be reintegrated into you, to find all the places where you need to, celebrate your successes, all the battles that are yours that you may have been ignoring or hiding away from, and actually fighting them and coming forward, and to claim and name all the things that you're longing for to create, that are yours to create and yours to build from the heart. And then in doing all of that, again, we will end with the Queen and the Emperor, where you build the story of the most powerful version of yourself. And the nice thing that I like about the Queen being the storyteller is that she is air, right? So she does actually fall into the realm of communication, and she will also help to create and craft a very clear story, a very clear narrative that others will understand. She's going to help you get, even from ourselves, to clear up the confusion, to clear up the uncertainties, to clear up everything, and to give us the power words, to give us the identity that we are here to be, that we were born here to be. So I hope you enjoyed this variation for the Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me spread. Next week, we will be moving on to the August spread. And so I hope you join me for that. And I look forward to seeing you again then. Until then, take care.